So I'll try and be engaging. Luckily, we're talking about data, which is the most exciting of things. So it will animate all of you. So as we discussed, we're talking about third-party data being brought into Klaviyo. And so there's really a lot of investment that Klaviyo has made. And really the goal for today is to just kind of open your understanding of what's available to you. And so you can see things that you could probably enable today with a few clicks, things that you might want to consider as you make new software purchases, and hopefully just get you guys thinking about the possibilities for all this data that's out there. And again, I'm Stuart Wesley, so I'm the partnerships lead at Swell, also the head of technology partnerships at Yotpo. That's 2 roles, 1 salary. We actually were just acquired by Yotpo, which is really a great thing in general. Lots of resources, but I wanted to clear up that confusion early on. It happened in early August, so there's a little confusion right now. Name tag says Swell. It is still Swell, but Yotpo is also involved now. And for today, we're going to be talking about kind of an overview of Klaviyo's integrations, really Klaviyo's approach to integrations, showing you kind of the breadth of what's out there. We're also going to be talking about why these integrations are so important, what you can do with this data, and why it will make your flows more meaningful, your email campaigns way more meaningful for your customers. And then we're going to get into a few examples. The examples are not going to be prescriptive. You're not going to just take these ideas and apply them to your customer base. You really have to bring it in through the lens of what you know works for your customers. And then from there, we're going to get into some questions that you guys might have for me, and hopefully a little bit of discussion, because I think you guys probably have a lot of good ideas that you can share with each other. So here is a screenshot of most of the integrations that Klaviyo has. They have around 50 of them. And really, I would love for you guys just to kind of take a quick look at these, see if any jump out at you as of companies that you work with that you don't bring that data into Klaviyo now. And then at some point, I would also love for you to visit the integrations page at Klaviyo's website, where you can see all of these and really take a look at what's available and put some thought into how this can improve your email strategy. I think it's worth noting that Klaviyo really invests in these integrations, and they do it for a real reason. And that's because this data is valuable, and Klaviyo has recognized that. And I think in the space, they've done a really good job of bringing all this data into Klaviyo's admin. And just to let you know, it's really easy to enable a lot of these. A lot of times it's 1 to 5 steps, 5 minutes of work to start bringing that data in. So this shouldn't really be seen as something that's kind of an arduous process. You can really enable these with a few clicks, and I've done it, and so that means you can definitely do it, and it should be pretty easy. So before we go any further, I always like to kind of ask this question. So just start thinking about all the software tools that are on your site. That could be your e-commerce platform, your email, a POS system, a reviews, loyalty, referrals. Really, there's a huge list. And now I want to just kind of poll the room and see how many everybody has. Unfortunately, I don't have a prize for whoever has the most. But OK, so I think we're going to start with 5. So if you have at least 5 technologies on your site, can you raise your hand? OK, and now 6. Keep your hand raised. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. See some people laughing. 12, 13. OK. So the answer is a lot. So I'd love to hear the top number at some point. But the answer is that there's a lot of software on your sites. And the problem with this is that these softwares don't always talk to each other. And Klaviyo is a perfect place to bring all of that data, so you can actually, 1, see what's going on. You can look at a lot of this data in the dashboard. And then 2, you can actually make actionable decisions to communicate your customers and improve your emails. So there's really a lot you can do with it. And again, there's a bit of a problem with all of these siloed data warehouses. And so once you are able to bring all this data into Klaviyo, it really can improve your emails. And this improves your emails in the same way that kind of any data would. And now you just have this brand new source that you have access to. So the first thing is you can make emails more personalized. And personalization, for the sake of personalization, can be creepy. But a lot of the times you can make it really valuable and really speak directly to a customer where it feels more like a one-on-one experience. The next thing is it's seamless. Again, we were talking about these kind of disparate experiences that a customer's having. They see your brand as a single entity, But if you have these disjointed experiences where you don't know what's happening for different customers when they're working with your reviews, when they're working with your on-site store, when they're working with your brick and mortar store, then they're going to feel like a disjointed process when you send them a communication that doesn't land with them. And then really what this all gets us to is a more meaningful connection. And you can have things related to timing, things related to responses, especially when you get into flows and event-triggered emails, where these emails really feel like a connection that you're having with your customer. And that's obviously the goal here. So to kind of illustrate what it looks like in the absence of data, I pulled a few things from my own inbox that I thought might be kind of interesting to share the context on. And this is not to say these brands are doing a horrible job or even that these are bad emails, but just to say that for me at this time, it didn't land perfectly. And I think that there was data that they could have used to maybe market to me differently. So the first one is from Madewell. And as you can probably guess by my current attire and my current shoes, I don't really wear women's shoes during the work week. And so when you say to me, hey, Stuart, I know you're obsessed with Madewell shoes. My answer is no, I'm actually not obsessed. And so there was a very different user journey that I went through. And so I actually bought these shoes for my sister's birthday. So I did a lot of things a normal customer would do. I went to the site, I picked out some shoes, I browsed, I picked out a size, added to my cart. But when I got to my cart, I think I left a few clues that Madewell could have used to say, okay, maybe this isn't our normal customer, and maybe it's someone else. And so I shipped it to a different address. I used a gift receipt, a gift box, and I left a gift note. And so if I was Madewell, I would have said, okay, this person's purchasing a gift, and I would have sent a very different follow-up email. I would have maybe said a year later, hey, don't forget about that special someone for this upcoming event. You bought it last year, remember your sister's birthday. And I would have been really appreciative, and it would have landed in a very different way. The next one is an email I would normally love to see in my inbox. This is from a company called Eastern Mountain Sports, a little bit less well-known than Madewell, kind of like an REI. And I actually went and did a hike on the Appalachian Trail over the summer, needed some new shorts, and bought them from Eastern Mountain Sports. They arrived with a manufacturer defect. They had the belt loops damaged. So I initiated a support request, initiated a return. And then during this process, I actually received this email that's now telling me I could have had a 50% off. So I have a little bit of buyer's remorse right there. And then also, it's in this middle of this kind of support experience that I'm hoping to resolve. And so again, this isn't to say that Eastern Mountain Sports sent a bad email. They just sent it to me at a time when it probably wasn't going to hit the mark. So if they could have said, oh, he has an open support ticket, maybe we shouldn't send him any emails right now. You can really change how an email will land with a customer. Again, I think these are great emails. Don't want to ding these brands, but there's always room to improve how we're reaching our customers using data. So what really comes into play here, and I kind of mentioned, none of this can really be prescriptive. I can't just give you the answer for the right combination of flows that's really going to unlock 10x ROI for your customers. I wish I could. But it really will come down to what is meaningful for your customers. And that's going to be different for every single brand. And it's always also going to be different within your customer base. And so as we kind of go through these integration examples, it would be great if you can kind of keep in the back of your mind, how would this work for my customers? Would they respond to this, or would this fall flat? And that's, again, going to be different for everybody. But at the end, I encourage you guys to talk about ways that you might be able to share best practices, because I find that often merchants are able to figure this stuff out. So we're moving on to third-party examples. Would love to hear which one you guys are using, so I'm going to ask that at the beginning. This is could be a little dry, so if I see you guys falling asleep post-lunch, I might accelerate the content a little bit as we get into kind of this more data-focused and use case-focused section. So the first and by far the most important integration you should be using. If you're not using this, there is a real problem. I almost suggest you leave, but I will still leave and go do it, not leave and get out. So just a quick raise of hand. Okay, so I actually talked to him last night. He works with ButcherBox, and he's on a custom platform. So I like to think that's why he's leaving, not because I'm such an awful speaker. We're friends on LinkedIn. He's going to give me a discount to ButcherBox, so should be good. Yeah, so this is very foundational. So if you're using one of these integrations, can see you raise your hand and just, great. So a lot of fundamental data comes in through your e-commerce platform. And you all know that, and this is really foundational to your email strategy. And from a really just baseline level. So a lot of times you can send these emails through other groups. You can probably send them through your e-commerce platform. We don't recommend you do that. There's a lot of reasons for that. One is just consistent branding, and then also email management. You want to make sure that you know unsubscribe lists are being followed, all that good stuff. And then the next thing I'll say is that these emails are still very important. When customers get order-related emails, there is a much higher open rate for these. I've heard at numbers as high as 70%. So you have this opportunity to say, hey, here's this information about your order that you just placed, and then here's this white space that you can use to ask for something else. We're going to talk a little bit more about what are the things you can include there are later on, but you can imagine there's a lot you can do there. I would also say that a lot of the visibility that customers expect for orders, the expectations they have for that are set by the top brands. So Amazon's ability to send a push notification when a package arrives on someone's phone, customers expect you to be able to be almost as communicative as they are. And so just sending these emails is a really important baseline strategy. And when you use this event data, you can set up these flows so it's easy and you don't have to really get into any sort of manual emails with this type of thing. The next thing that's still basic but still worth reiterating is abandoned carts. And I think that everybody here is probably using some form of abandoned carts. And so when we get that event from the e-commerce platform, you can set up a flow, of course. I think the thing that people don't think about as much is that you actually have numerous chances for that abandoned cart email to be successful. So the Klaviyo has found that up until the 4th email, you can still convert customers. And that's a really big deal because you now have extra opportunities to have a really high converting type of email to send out. But the interesting thing here is you probably don't want to send the same email every time. So when we think about these emails, there's 2 really foundational basic ones that are up here. That's the wait 2 hours, 2 to 4 hours, whatever it is, and just let them know they forgot. And then maybe the next time you offer a discount. And I think after this is where it becomes really important to consider what is important to your customers. The reminder didn't work, the discount didn't work, so what's that next thing that you're going to offer that is going to cause conversion? So maybe that's a gift with purchase. Maybe that's reminding them of their loyalty tier status and their loyalty points that they can use. And maybe that's engaging with really relevant content if that's something that you think your customers find important. And really that's up to you. And this is honestly the hardest part of it, and I can't tell you, but I can at least let you know that that's the question to be asking. Great, so moving on to point of sale systems. Anybody using Lightspeed or Shopify POS or have a brick and mortar store? Great, good to know. So this is kind of an extension of order-related information. So a lot of the same things we just talked about apply. When you send that email after the in-store purchase, you have white space to then talk about something else. Are you asking them for a review? Are you asking them for a referral? There's really a lot you can do there. So there's a lot of similarity. And I think one thing specifically I want to call out with POS integrations is, of course, you now know what store they're most likely to shop at. And so with this information, there's a whole level of personalization that you can get to. And one thing I'd recommend doing is creating a segment. So say, hey, all these customers shop here. Now we can market to them specifically about the store's events, promotions, and all those good things. And I think not only does that offer the additional opportunity for purchases, but it also is kind of going back to that omni-channel strategy that a lot of brands are moving towards, where you now have an additional way to engage customers with your brand. So definitely something to look into if you have a brick and mortar store. If you have a brick and mortar store and you don't see your POS up here, definitely ask your account manager and they can kind of bother the product team about it. The only problem with the point of sale industry right now is that there are so many providers that it's really hard to keep up with integrations. So hopefully there's some consolidation and we can build more of these. So one thing I want to hit on quickly is recurring payments. And so Recharge is a great provider. They focus primarily on Shopify. And this is kind of part of this discussion about base level data that you want to be communicating about. And I would say there's a little bit more nuance when it comes to subscriptions. It's very similar to regular orders, but there's more at risk. And so you want to be communicating. You never want to surprise your customer with a subscription bill or anything like that. So you want to send those emails, but you don't want to send any more than you absolutely need to do that, because every time they get an email about subscriptions, they're going to reconsider whether or not they need this subscription to your product. And every time you send one email, you're going to have an increased risk of churn for that. The next thing I'll say is that the abandoned cart emails there's way more at risk. So you're not talking about a single cart. You're talking about that cart for the duration of that subscription. So there's a lot more value that you can achieve from winning that cart. And so it will change kind of the economics and algebra that you put into what you're willing to give up to win that cart. Anybody using Recharge in the room? Or another recurring billing, like a bold? Great, thanks. So we're moving on a little bit from kind of this foundational data that you'll have and more into the things to fill the white space. And so Nosto is a partner of Klaviyo's, and the kind of the primary function that they offer is a product recommendation widget that's really easy to add to emails. Klaviyo has functionality around this, but if you're using Nosto and you have access to their tool, I highly recommend that you do this. And so it's a really easy thing to add. You copy and paste code in an email. You can update it to look exactly as you would like. And again, it's a great thing to fill white space. I would say the primary benefit of offering product recommendations is you're taking your huge list of SKUs and saying, hey, customer, buy one of these 100 things. And you're saying, actually, we know you probably will be most likely to like one of these 4. And so you can take something like a store-wide sale and say, maybe you should take advantage of the store-wide sale, and here's the coupon, and here's something you can actually take an action on and buy, rather than asking them to look at all of your products. One thing I would say you shouldn't use this for is abandoned cart. If you know a customer is more likely to buy a specific product, don't re-engage them with the buyer journey and reselecting everything that's out there. Is anybody using Nosto in the room, or another personalization tool? Maybe the Klaviyo tool? Okay. And here's just a quick example of that. So it's pretty unimposing, but again, you can give the customer something to do with your call to action. You said, here's something that you care about, and actually here's the way it leads to conversion. So the next one I want to get into is help desk. So Klaviyo integrates with Desk, Zendesk, Olark, and Help Scout. Does anybody use one of these? Great. And so the integration I would say is like summarized by the open support ticket event and the resolve ticket event. And we'll start with the open support ticket. So the example I gave with my shorts earlier on for Eastern Mountain Sports, you want to be really considerate of these customers. I'm not saying every time someone opens a ticket, you should necessarily put them in a segment to stop marketing to them, but you want to consider whether or not they're going to be as receptive to your clever subject line if they're kind of mad at you about something. And then the next thing I would say is for a resolve ticket, you want to be really communicative about that. And it applies to open ticket as well. Again, the standards for these types of things are set by top retailers and set by Amazon. So you have to compete with the customer service expectations of all these top retailers and be really responsive. Let them know you're thinking about them. Let them know when you receive the request, and let them know you're working on it. And then the last piece here, and this is more of a specific one related to the abandoned cart. If you can identify an open support ticket and an abandoned cart together for the same customer, you've identified a really clear path to conversion, because what it seems like in a lot of these situations, the customer tried to make a purchase, got to the checkout process, and had some sort of issue. Maybe their coupon didn't work, maybe it's tiny, but for whatever it was enough to make them stop the purchase process. And you might be able to win them back just by following up with some super easy question. So you want to be able to flag these and prioritize them for your support team. So the next one is for reviews and user-generated content. Again, I work with Yotpo after the acquisition of Swell. We actually don't have a Klaviyo integration yet, but I'm really interested in this happening, and I know a lot of customers are thinking about it. So if this is something you're interested in, please let us know, because this is how we make these decisions. And Klaviyo currently does have an integration with Stamped, and so and I actually think this is one of the more interesting integrations that you can have. And the reason for this is because you can get a very clear insight into a customer's sentiment about you and about a product. And that's relatively rare. You can't always get the exact pulse of a customer, but when they submit a review, you know emphatically they were 1 star, really unhappy, don't buy, or 5 stars, they loved it so much that not only did they give you money for this, and they went back to your site and just wanted to spread the good news. So when you have these opportunities, this is, again, kind of that white space opportunity. What do you do with this? And so when you get these events come in, you want to consider what that thank you for your review looks like. Is it thank you for your negative review, we want to make it right, please contact our support channel, et cetera, et cetera? Or is it thank you for your super positive review, would you consider making a referral? Or would you consider buying one of these relevant products since you love our brand so much? And so there's really a lot of opportunity with this type of integration where you can understand the sentiment and then have some real actions associated with it. So is anybody using Yotpo in here or Stamped? Oh, wow, so a lot. Good to know. And then let's see, the last thing I would say about customers who make reviews is that a small portion of your customers make the vast majority of the reviews. So there's a vocal minority that will create most of the user-generated content on your site. And so you can consider having a segment for these customers where you can then remind them to make reviews in a different way. And so you can get more of that content, which we know is a big part of the buyer journey. Okay, so since I do work in loyalty and referrals, I'm going to go a little bit deeper here. Not too much detail since I know it's post-lunch. Does anybody use Swell, Loyalty Lion, or Smile? Great, good to know. So I really like loyalty in emails. I think it's so intuitive. And I think there's so much data that we send over that's really useful in your emails. And so on the left-hand side, we have things that are called customer attributes. So these are specific pieces of data that you can include in emails, like someone's VIP tier, their points balance, an expiration date of points when you want to tell them about that type of thing. And on the right side, we have event-related data. And I verified that Swell is actually still the only integration that sends this data. And again, events is where I think, and I think Klaviyo would agree broadly, a lot of the more powerful emails can get sent with these automated flows. And so there's a lot of things related to referrals, reminding referrals, and thanking referrers, and things like that. And there's also things like points expiration reminder or points redemption reminder to get customers to actually come back and use it. And so the first thing I'll say, and I said it earlier about all of your emails, is you should really be focusing on getting all those emails into Klaviyo if you can. A lot of tools offer the functionality to send emails, but I really don't recommend using it. Not only are there deliverability issues with using a random third-party app for this type of thing, but there's also the branding consideration. Is this part of your overall brand strategy? And then also the sophistication that you can get to in these flows is really limited if you're not in Klaviyo. And so I recommend just trying to bring that all into Klaviyo. And then the other detail, again, is the unsubscribe lists. There's the can spam consideration, of course. I don't know if anybody's ever been really pursued for that, but hypothetically, it's there, and you want to follow that. The next thing I'll say is that you really want to consider incorporating loyalty throughout your email campaigns, reminding customers of their VIP tier. A good example, I think, is with the airlines. So American Airlines asked me to buy miles, which I think is one of the most absurd requests in all of online business. I'm not going to do that ever. But they included my tier status, which, as it turns out, doesn't actually do anything. Gold status on American Airlines is not very valuable. But it kind of makes you feel good. And I think I opened this email because I'm like, oh, I'm gold. And I got a little superiority complex going. So when you incorporate it here, you're doing a few things. One, you're reminding a customer that they're important to you. They have some sort of status, special. They're special. But you're also just reminding them that the program exists. And one of the things that we see move the needle most with loyalty and referral programs is just how much do customers know about it. And so we see in the industry 10% for adoption and engagement with loyalty and referral programs can be good. But you can really increase that by just letting your customers know about it, because they often just don't engage because they don't know about it. And then the next thing kind of gets back into that white space, and we kind of talked about when a review is made, you know someone's happy, you can ask them for the referrals. So really look for opportunities when customers are happy with you. That can be as simple as post-purchase. Hey, thank you for making a purchase. Do you think your friends would also enjoy this? And encourage that referral. Great. And I just want to show a quick flow. If it's kind of intimidating to bring your emails into Klaviyo, this is just a really straightforward transactional email that we send through Swell. And it's not hard to set up. And so you might be kind of like, okay, this is not a priority. I want to leave it in my third-party app. A lot of the times, these can be really easy to set up the events. And again, there's a lot of value from just having all of those emails in Klaviyo. Another example, just to prove I'm not lying, it's really easy to put it in Klaviyo. Please put it in Klaviyo. And with that, I want to just kind of remind you that there's this whole ecosystem outside of what I just talked about. What I kind of touched on is a sample of what Klaviyo has to offer. And I really would love to have you all take a look at this and maybe do that in your free time to look at the integrations page. And then the next thing I would say is, if there's an integration that you think would be really valuable for you and probably other customers, the Klaviyo product team would love to build the integrations, or at least they would love to consider them and prioritize them, because I would say at least half of the ideas for integrations come from our brands coming to us and saying, hey, we really need this data, let's do it. And so really valuable to hear your feedback. We do listen, I promise. So tell your account manager, and tell your account manager to tell the product team to think about it. And with that, I want to open up to questions. Happy if you guys want to reach out on email at any time. Well, I'll respond when I want to, but you can reach out whenever you want. Here's my email. And with that, would love to open it up to questions that you all have about integrations or anything really. All right. And I was kind of expecting that post-lunch, so I have questions for you. It was a trap. So this case, I was imagining this is kind of a discussion, but I would really love to hear about the integrations you're using now, especially if you're using them in what you think is a particularly useful way, or you've seen some conversions. So I talked to a few of you before, so I know you're using these integrations, and you raised your hands when I talked about integrations. So would love to hear if anybody's willing to volunteer about an integration you're using.
Well, we were talking about Stamp.
Right.
And I asked about it. He's like, oh, we do that, so I just installed it.
Yes, well, that's amazing.
I'm working, you know. And so what I'm going to do with that is when we get an NPS score that's
Yep.
10, I'm going to send them an email that thanks them, and then
Sure.
also give them a discount to give them a break.
Oh, that's awesome.
They're a promoter.
Absolutely.
And try to get them to do that. And then I guess like looking through Stamp and like, oh, this person's like 20 reviews.
Right.
Like what is up with you? It has an order.
It's a little concerning in a way, but
Also has
right.
an order since made. Like,
Wow.
if analytics has like high churn for him, so I'm like, oh, well, we should like find these people.
Yeah.
Why have they dropped out?
Yeah, that's a really valuable customer. Very cool. And are those positive reviews, I hope, for the 20 reviews?
Yeah, they all look like reviews. I mean,
Interesting.
Our average review rating is 1%.
Perfect. All right, 20 reviews. That person really is invested. Might be an affiliate consideration and all that. Yeah, that's really useful. Great. Sure.
We integrate with Zendesk.
Yep.
And one of the things that we use that for is certain flows will have people drop out of the flow if they send us a support ticket.
Right.
So if we're trying to elicit a response from them,
Sure.
they don't need to get any more emails in that flow, or on some of our like welcome emails, depending on what people respond to. We have a Zendesk ticket for them, they get pulled out of that flow.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so do you use a segment for that, or do you use, is that part of the flow to exclude them?
It's part of the flow.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's also just useful looking at, if I'm looking at a customer's profiling in Klaviyo for some reason, I can see like, oh, this person opened a ticket recently, or they've opened a lot of tickets. It gives you sort of a fuller picture to see all of that there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's a great point. Just bringing this data into Klaviyo, you now have it in one place where you can visualize it and compare to other trends. So that's useful in itself, just to bring that data in.
Question on that. Are there any metadata tags for Zendesk, so if someone's had a terrible experience with you?
Yes. So with the event data, you get the kind of content of the support request. You get their email and name and all that stuff. So you can actually see that. I'm not sure if you have the capability to automate anything based on the content, just because it's going to be text and it has to be interpreted by somebody. Yeah, and I don't know if you can, I don't think there's a sentiment score or anything like that. So right now you know they opened it, but someone has to look at it before you can evaluate how you want to respond. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, you can create a segment and opened and not closed, or for a specific period of time, or in general. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Cool. Any other great integration use cases? Or good, or okay, or need to be improved? Sure. Actually, sorry, I can't hear you. Oh, yeah. Is there a Klaviyo integration for that?
There was one with
Right.
in hindsight, we should have run
Right. Right. Yeah, it's there's.
We did but if we can feed them out real fast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, the Wheelie, I have mixed feelings. Like, in one way, it is kind of like free money for the customer. It might make, but if it drives a conversion, that's good in its own way. But if it's too generous, then that's a problem. Also, I have like some weird obsession with always doing the Wheelio. Like, I can't go to a site and not do it. I don't know what that says about me, like how simple of a consumer I am. But honestly, I put in fake emails and I never use the coupon. I just have to spin the wheel. It's really, it says something about me. I'm sorry. That probably discredits everything I just told you, but it's a guilty pleasure.
You know they're only ever going to give you one option.
Is it really only one option? I knew that.
It's just one.
Okay. It just crushed my dreams. Cool. Anybody else have any integrations that they've used and think are might be relevant to talk about? Sure. Oh, excellent. Sure. Gotcha. It's a problem. Absolutely. For sure. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Yeah, I'd love to talk about more about the Swell integration if you want to. I'm not sure if you're switching to the referral piece with Swell too, but it's all included with, yeah, so right. Sure. Yeah, we'd love to talk. If you want to talk more about that after, happy to give you some more of the details. But I also want to spare everybody what might turn into a sales pitch, as you probably get many of those. Great. Any other integrations that you guys are using that you think are doing well or want to be improved by Klaviyo? I won't point them out, but the person who manages a lot of these integrations may or may not be in the room, so they might hear some of these and make improvements. Sure.
For POS, you use NCR.
NCR?
You get
I don't believe so. Like I said, the problem with the POS market right now is that there are so many point of sale systems that are out there. And so what happens is if you build an integration for one, often that's only going to be useful for a few customers. And so from a product perspective, it gets really hard to justify the investment when there's so many. And I think there's also a general sentiment that there's going to be a lot of consolidation in that industry where there's going to be some real winners. A lot of people are integrating with Lightspeed right now, so that seems to maybe be one that people use. But yeah, definitely ask about it and tell your account manager it's really important to you and that you really want the product team to know, and then it will get back to them. And really the sum of all those conversations help us make product decisions for SaaS companies. Great. Anybody else want to weigh in on anything? All right, I'll stop trying to get all the questions out. But I really encourage you guys to, again, go back to the integrations page. And then if you heard somebody talk about something cool, ask them what they're doing, talk about that integration, steal their ideas, duplicate them. Hopefully you're not competitors directly, and keep the conversation going. All right, thanks, everybody.